NATO Secretary General Fogh Rasmussen was in Kiev on Thursday for talks with Ukraine's leaders. This follows warnings from the military alliance that Russian troops have massed along the border and Moscow could be planning a ground invasion. For more, CCTV's Kate Parkinson is in Kiev. Kate.
Well, yes, as you say, NATO's Secretary General Fogh Rasmussen here in Kiev today for talks with Ukraine's leadership. He met the Prime Minister. He also met Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko. Of course, the security situation here in Ukraine, the reason for the visit, but also a show of support from NATO, from the Western military alliance, a show of support for Ukraine's sovereignty and for the country's territorial integrity. Now, Ukraine is not a member of NATO, and actually the organization is under no treaty obligation to come to Ukraine's defense. But during his talks here in Kiev, Rasmussen did say they discussed ways that NATO could help Ukraine in the face of an attack from Russia.
We have already discussed with Ukraine how we can step up our military-to-military cooperation, more intensified Ukrainian participation in NATO exercises, training, education, and also long-term assistance to modernize the Ukrainian armed forces and the Ukrainian security sector.
Well, of course, this visit, the timing is very important. It follows a warning from NATO that Russia is massing troops along the border and could be preparing for a ground invasion. NATO says Moscow currently has around 20,000 troops along the border with Ukraine. Russia says it is not planning an invasion, but it says it is carrying out military exercises along the border.
Kate, what is the situation as far as the fighting goes on the ground in eastern Ukraine?
Well, there is an increase in fighting in the east of the country as Ukraine's government forces try to push out the pro-Russian rebels from that part of the country. Certainly, the forces are tightening their noose around the rebels. There's been sustained shelling in the rebel stronghold of Donetsk, some shells falling in residential areas, one mortar reportedly hitting a hospital. It's understood at least 3 people were killed in those incidents. Certainly, this is raising concerns that with there being civilian casualties, it could increase the chances of Russia invading. NATO warns that Russia could use a pretext of a humanitarian or a peacekeeping mission to bring its troops across the border.
All right, thank you so much, Kate Parkinson.